Welcome to Derby Talk, the show that tracks the Emmy race. And this year, our coverage is being sponsored by a real horse race, by the Breeders' Cup, which is on NBC November 1st, November 2nd. Now, this year's Emmy race welcomes back an old favorite, Ray Romano, who, of course, won Best Actor in 2002 and Best Comedy Series twice for Everybody Loves Raymond. And this year competes in the guest acting category for Parenthood. Welcome, Ray. I'm going to bring you right on here along with Chris Beachum, our senior editor. And I want to take us back in time a little bit, back to 2002. And I want to apologize to you, Ray, for incorrectly predicting Bernie Mac would win comedy actor, and you won comedy actor, and you did something remarkable. And I want to start by talking there because, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Ray accomplished something remarkable, didn't he? Being a stand-up comedian to win an acting award. Explain.
That's right. I think you're the only one to do that in a lead category other than Roseanne Barr.
I did not know that. Wow. And by the way, no need to apologize for predicting. I predicted that also. So there's no need at all, and it made it better, you know, when I did win. So I thank you for it.
Oh, I know. Look, the Emmys are just crazy, aren't they, Ray? I mean, look at this. The first 2 years, you guys were not even nominated in the top categories. And then you go on to win Best Comedy Series twice. And, you know, the other day I was talking with John Solberg, who's head of FX Network's communications, and he's saying, well, what about Louis C.K.? It wasn't nominated the first 2 years. And I said, look at Everybody Loves Raymond, look at Seinfeld. They weren't nominated their first 2 years, and then they go on to sweep the Emmys. So you have to have hope, as you guys proved.
Yeah, you got to... The first thing you got to do is stay on the air. That's the hardest part. just getting by 2 years without being canceled. And that was... For us, that was the accomplishment, because I used to do, you know, the first year we were on Friday nights, and we were in like 110th place. And when I used to do stand-up during that first year, my line used to be, we've got Moesha right on our ass, you know, because the show Moesha was right behind us. I don't know if you remember Moesha.
Yes, of course, yeah.
But then they gave us a shot. They gave us a chance on Monday night. Towards the end of the first season, they put us on after Cosby for the last 6 episodes, and we managed to increase in his ratings, from his ratings. So we got lucky to stay on the air. And then, yeah, I think our show was the kind that it took a while to, you know, once you knew the characters, we tried hard to make the comedy more character-based and the stories based on the investment you have with the characters. And it takes a while for the audience to know them. And luckily we had that time. And then once that grew, that bond with the audience, that's when we started getting recognition, you know.
Now, Chris, let's give another history lesson here to Ray, and that has to do with the fact that it's unusual that Everybody Loves Raymond won Best Comedy Series its final season, right?
Yeah, the last time that had happened for a comedy series was Barney Miller, so it'd been a long, long time. I think a lot of that goes to the fact that by the time a show gets to a final season, a lot of them are out of steam. They're not even very good quality anymore. But of course, yours was. What was that like on that final ceremony at the Emmy Awards to actually take home that big trophy?
Well, it was a great way to end. I don't think we expected it, because yeah, it's like you say. Mostly, you know, the audience. Look, the ratings. We thought the show was still good, but we saw the finish line. We saw that, you know, if we continued, the quality would diminish, and we didn't want to go out that way. So that's why Phil Rosenthal and I decided this was going to be our last season. We knew, and I think we only did 16 episodes that last season. Because we said, okay, we'll do another season, but we don't want to do 24 because even that will be depleting it a little. So we knew we had a good season, the same as any other season, but there were new guys in town. There was, I think who we thought were going to win then was Desperate Housewives, right? I don't know if that was the first season or the second, but they were the hot show then. So it was a surprise to us when we won, but we all thought, what a great way to go out. And I didn't win then. I only won once, and I think the year before that, I didn't even get nominated. So this all ended on a great note. You know, the last thing we wanted to do was go out, overstay our welcome and go out on a downward slide. And that's why a lot of people would say we could have done more, but in reality, we thought, no, we can't. Not if we want to keep it the way, the quality that we remember it.
Well, you could have done more in terms of winning Emmys for writing and directing, and you didn't win in those categories. And you're not alone, by the way. Among the many odd things about Emmys is the fact that, Chris, let's give another example to Ray here to illustrate this point. Mad Men may be a good example, right? Here's a show that has never won any for acting, but yet it won Best Drama Series 4 times. In the case of Raymond, Ray won once for lead actor, Patty Heaton won twice, Doris Roberts, Brad Garrett won multiple times, but they couldn't take those other categories, and that was strange, right, Chris?
Yeah, that doesn't happen all that often. Usually if a show is really hot at the Emmys, it takes a lot of different kinds of. Modern Family right now has won, I think, just about every category it's been up for. So that was a little strange, that especially on directing, I thought that would have been a great thing for you to win.
Yeah, we won one for, I think we only won one for writing, if I remember. Tucker Cawley, for Tucker Cawley's episode, was the only one that we won for. I forget what season that was. But yeah, look, I'm just happy to be. Yeah, the thing with the Emmys for me is I get exactly what I need. This is what it was. When I lost 4 years in a row, and I said, I get exactly what I need Emmy night. I get recognition. I get people looking at me, and because I'm in the business. Obviously, you need that, but I also need to lose. I need both sides of it. You know, as a comic, you thrive on being the insecure underdog. So I get both ends of it. And then when I not only got nominated, I won. I had to go to therapy to figure it all out.
I remember that night. We were standing at the car park. This is, by the way, is the single greatest place, award fans, that you want to be on the Emmys, Oscars, or whatever. When the auditorium empties out and all the stars go to valet pickup, they're all clustered there with their awards or their long faces if they lost. And if you're standing in that midst, all of a sudden you can strike up these great conversations. It's a lot of fun.
Well, can I tell you one little interesting story about that night? When I was doing stand-up in New York City, I played all the little funky clubs in the city, and one of the ones I played was down in the Village, and I doubt it's even. I know it's not open now. It was a small little club, and called Comedy U for University, and the bartender there was Mike Chiklis, and he was just breaking into acting, and I was just breaking into stand-up, and we became friends there, just talking every night. I would see him, you know, when I worked there, and he told me he was up for this John Belushi movie, you know, the TV movie Wired, and I was just making my way through the stand-up ranks, and we were just trying to break in, and then we went our separate ways. I didn't see him anymore, and I guess it's 10, 12 years later, we won the same night. He won for drama on that same night that I won for comedy, and we met backstage. I mean, I had seen him before that, but it was a neat little circle that we made. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a great story. Chris, do you have a question?
Yeah, you may be on back up at the Emmys this summer for Best Drama Guest Actor on Parenthood. You were on most every episode this season, almost.
Yeah.
What was it about Parenthood that drew you into wanting to do an arc on that show, and what was the experience like?
Well, I was a fan of the show, and I was also a fan of Friday Night Lights, which Jason Katims, who was running Parenthood, ran Friday Night Lights, and I was interested in doing something like that. I had done the show Men of a Certain Age, and that got canceled. You guys heard of that show, right?
Of course, yeah, TNT, right.
I got scared for a second. And that was, my venture into dramedy, and it's what attracted me. I love the idea now. I had done the 4-camera, and I love the idea of the single camera and being able to perform subtly and get a little bit inside, and still be comedic. So Parenthood, I was a big fan of it, and I love the way I love the tone of it, and I just I called up, I met Jason Katims, and we became kind of like email buddies, and I called him up after season 3, I believe, yeah, right, season 3, right? What season are they going into now? I forgot, but
This past season, I think, was the 4th.
Okay, right. So when season 3 ended, I called him to congratulate him. I thought the finale was great, and I left a message on his answering machine. And I just, men of a certain age had just gotten canceled, and I told him great season, and I half jokingly said, "Hey, I'm unemployed. If you think of anything for me, it would be an honor. And not only that, whatever my agent quotes you, I can do better than that." And what was funny was about a week later, my agent called me and said, "Did you tell Jason Katims that you would work for less money?" Something. I said, "Yeah, I kind of did." But Jason called me up and said he would love to try it. And we both agreed if we could come up with something that seemed creatively worthwhile, it would be fun to do. And he did. They came up with this character, and I took to the character well. I enjoyed playing him. I invented a little backstory for him, and it ended up being a great thing for me, career-wise and just performance-wise. I just loved being in that atmosphere. And by the way, that show, they give you a lot of freedom to do your thing. And Lauren Graham, boy, she really is someone to play off of in that setting.
There are some similarities between the two shows, Ray, and that is that because they're family-focused shows with eccentric characters in them, I think the formula of a family show in many ways is all these people around me are crazy, but I have no choice. I must put up with them and survive, so I'll love them back. And in a way, that great shrug that would happen at the end of Everybody Loves Raymond, because that's how a sitcom half hour has to end, is the same formula in a way of Parenthood, isn't it?
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because when I watch Raymond, when occasionally, and by the way, I don't go seeking it out. You kind of can't avoid it. But when an episode pops up and I watch it, I kind of think the same thing. I think, this is a story that could be done in the same tone that Parenthood does it, but because of the genre, the sitcom genre, it comes out the way it comes out. It's a little heightened. It's a little broader, but the things we're doing, the things we're talking about, and the dynamic between the families could be done dramatically, just the same, the same stories could be done, and that's kind of what Parenthood does do. They actually blend both the reality of it with the humor also, whereas with the sitcom, we try to keep it as grounded as we can, but at the end of the day, you're doing a sitcom, so reactions are bigger, situations are a little more heightened, but the stories are kind of the same, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna get a last question in here, and then I'm gonna pass off to Chris for a last question. My last question is this: on Everybody Loves Raymond, you lived across the street from the craziest woman on the planet. Your mother, was so evil, diabolical, but loving. Why didn't you either A, strangle her, or if you wanted to be more merciful, she's your mother after all, why didn't you just lock the door, or why didn't you move? There were other options.
There's a simple answer, because then we don't have a show.
Oh, okay. All right, good answer. All right, Chris, what's your question?
Well, on Parenthood, your character is in a romantic triangle with Lauren Graham's character and Jason Ritter. She makes a huge mistake toward the end of the season and loses both characters. You move away. What does that mean for you in terms of potentially being on for this next season?
Good question. First of all, the fact that I'm in a love triangle and I'm battling Jason Ritter, that sounds like science fiction to me right there. But by the way, I was very nervous having to go up against a 30-year-old stud. But anyway, That's the magic of television. But you know, at the time we thought it was just a one-season arc, and that's all I wanted it to be, and signed up. And towards the end, you know, Jason and a couple of exec producers were saying, "Would you continue?" Because they didn't know where it was going to go, and I didn't know what I was going to do, what the future held for me as far as work. So we kind of left it open, and the way they ended it, it seems like there's a finality to it, but I don't think there is. It's open for more stories if they want it and if I want it. So where we sit now, I think we're just trying to see creatively if anything works. You know, there's a lot of people on that show. There's a lot of stories. I would love to come back. I don't want it shoehorned in. I don't want to repeat what we did. If there was a way in creatively that it seemed exciting, they want to do it, and I'll do it. But so far, we don't know. But I would definitely do it again if things ended up working out that way.
Well, that's great. Well, good luck to you at the Emmys this time. Ray, thanks for joining us today.
If I do get nominated, you know, you got to predict someone else to win. You got to keep that pattern going.
I promise you I will keep my bad streak going.
You're in my predictions right now. You're in my top 6.
Who am I up? I don't even know what that race looks like. Who's in it?
Well, you got me. I can't even remember who all I got in there right now. But that particular race is always
Michael J.
really,
Fox.
really
it's a lot of those good wife people, right, Chris? Michael J.
Fox.
Fox.
Michael J. Fox, Nathan Lane, all the guys from Justified. It's a really good group.
Well, I don't stand it. It's a win-win. If I get nominated, it's great. If I don't, then I don't have to write a funny speech and put on a bow tie. So it's a win-win.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ray.
But it'd be fun. It'd be fun to go back there, I'll tell you that. Thanks, guys.
You'll be back soon. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we're going to try to get Eric Stonestreet on the line here. We were having technical difficulties right before the show, so viewers, bear with us a few seconds while we try the magic of Skype connections. And while we do that, just to give me something to do while I tap dance on the vaudeville stage and they move the sets behind me, so to speak, I want you to take a look at Emmy. Do you know who Emmy is? Do you know what this symbol represents? Who do we have on the line? This is Tom O'Neill.
We have Eric. Hold on one moment.
Oh, we do? Excellent.
Hello.
Hey, Eric. Tom O'Neill here.
Hey, Tom.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Could you sit back a little bit? We're getting instructions from our director here. Yes, that's much better. A little further back. Do we have Daniel Montgomery with us yet? We're dialing in. We're waiting for our other senior editor to join us here, Eric. So while he's joining us, just give us a second for the technical lineup. I'm telling the story of the Emmy statuette. Now, you've won 2 of these. You probably know this, or do you, that the symbol of this award is not of an angel. It's of a woman who represents the Greek muse, who is holding up the electron, the atom, the spinning molecule, to kind of dramatize the magic of electricity in the post-war era. Imagine 1946 when this was born, 47. Television was flying through the air. Nobody understood how it could possibly do that. So they created this statue that they wanted to be the sister of Oscar, and they gave it lightning bolts for wings, and they gave her the magic of the atom to hold up. Now, did you know that, by the way?
I didn't know that in that detail. I knew that it was something to do with the lightning bolts and the electron, but I didn't know that. And then Emmy, somebody told me, I can't remember where. What? Oh, the thing. Sorry. And I can't remember who told me that originally. Maybe it was you. Did you tell me that? I think maybe you told me that at a party.
Maybe so. I love to tell the story, yes. It was named for the Image Orthicon camera, which was the camera used in the 40s that would, so that when, and it was nicknamed the Emmy. So you can imagine Milton Berle on set shooting his show. He would say to the crew, "Hey, bring the Emmy over here," and they would wheel over the big camera. So it was IMMY, and when they wanted to come up with a name for this award, they feminized it for Emmy. The other choice, by the way, was the iconoscope tube, which is inside the image orthicon. I'm screwing up all my terms, but the other thing was they could have called it the Ike for the image, for the iconoscope tube, and this was before Eisenhower was president, so that we would have had a different award. That's enough of a history lesson. Daniel Montgomery, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so I've blathered on enough. I'm going to give you the first question for Eric. Go.
Well, I was just curious. You know, when you won your first Emmy for Modern Family, it was for the episode where you played Fizbo the clown, and we don't get to see that character all that often on the show. Do you know if the writers ever intend to bring back that persona in the future? Maybe win you another Emmy for it?
I hope so. I mean, we have a joke around the set that my happiest days are the days I get to come put on my Fizbo the clown makeup. It actually coined a phrase last year. I'm as happy as Stonestreet on a Fizbo day. So I hope so. I mean, I think they have those little things and nuggets that, you know, in their arsenal when they make the most sense. And you know, we always think we want Fizbo, or we always think we want more Ham or Mitch or whoever. But I think they do a good job of giving the audience just enough to make them keep being interested in those characters and those little personas that we have.
Now, Eric, let's tell the story of last year, which just for amusing kind of behind-the-scenes purposes here, and that is, I ran into you at the BAFTA TV party, and I warned you. I said, Eric, you may very well win. I know that most of the experts at Gold Derby were not predicting you would win, but I was. Chris Beachum, another one of our editors, and I was basing the prediction on my nieces and nephews, who I had recreated a judging panel when I was home in Cleveland, Ohio, a few weeks earlier. Everybody sat in a room, watched all 5 or 6 submissions, and you won on every single ballot. So when you ended up winning backstage, and I ran into you there, you gave full credit while we were chatting to my nieces and nephews. And so I'm sure you want to know what they think this year, right?
Yeah, well, I will be very, very, very curious as to what they think. They are now my Nielsen family. They can tell me everything, and I will just go with it. You know, it's interesting, this Emmy stuff and how you submit for awards. I never knew how it worked until all of a sudden I was in a position to have to learn. So I was learning and doing it at the same time. And, you know, I never thought I would have to choose like something, you know, that people would judge my acting ability on, you know, against other, not only cast members, but other talented actors. So it's all a bit surreal, but, you know, I always say that I certainly didn't invent this process of giving each other awards, but since it happens, and since Hollywood does it, I definitely want to be a part of it because it means so much, and it means so much to other actors like myself 5-6 years ago that dreamed of being nominated for an Emmy, and for you not to take it seriously really, I think, is a disservice to other actors who would snap their fingers and gladly change places with you.
Well, how involved do you get into the actual process? For example, strategy-wise, yes, you have to pick a sample of your best work, but when you're competing against 3 of your co-stars, something else happens, which is you have to be careful not to pick an episode in which you make them look really, really good. And by the way, sometimes your co-stars submit really good Eric Stonestreet episodes, which help you. And we have to remind the viewers here that this prize is being decided by about no more than 70 or 80 fellow actors who are looking at a sample episode submitted by all 6 contenders. And if 4 of them are Modern Family people, and you're going to be on 4 of them, they're going to see a lot of all 4 of you actors. And you have to be careful about how you appear on other people's tapes, or you have to be careful about how your competitors appear on your tape, right?
Well, that is most definitely where I sort of check out of the process. I pick an episode that I really like for myself, and maybe my family and friends like for myself. And you know, in the case you guys really sort of weighed in on that last year. but I don't think about it. It's impossible to pick an episode that Ty Burrell's not great in. It's impossible to pick an episode that Jesse Tyler Ferguson's not great in, and Ed O'Neill. So I can't really think about that. And I hope that, that's the same case for them. I mean, I highly doubt they think, well, I'm going to pick an episode where Eric doesn't do his best to his abilities, and we definitely have heavier episodes or lighter episodes, but, when I watch an episode at the end of the season, and I think, like, I'm proud of that. Like, yes, I would absolutely love people to sit down and watch that episode and decide whether I'm worthy of winning an Emmy.
Daniel?
You've played Cam for 4 years now, and so you've had this process of picking an episode for the last 3 seasons, and likely this season again, if you're nominated again. Has the process of selecting gotten easier? Is it gotten harder to evaluate your own work?
I don't think it's gotten easier. We are our own toughest critics, which I've always felt, which is sort of the cycle of what it is to be an actor. I strive to do the best possible work I can, and then I'm hypercritical of myself as well. I haven't. We have one more episode tonight that needs to run, and then I'll sort of, if that's the other thing is, I never knew that you didn't pick an episode until you were fortunate enough to be nominated. So I feel like me thinking about episodes right now is putting the cart before the horses, and just got to wait and see if I'm lucky enough to get nominated again. And if that's the case, then I open it up. I have an idea of what I think is a good episode or might be a good episode, but I'm not so married to anything that I'm not willing to let other people sort of make that decision for me.
Well, having said that, we have 2 suggestions for you this year, Eric. Are you up for our suggestions?
I absolutely am.
All right, here's the first one. It's, if I got the title of it right, it's When the Tree Falls. This is the one where you're trying to stop them from cutting down the tree. And the second one is the wow factor, where it's all about the fountain in the backyard and all of that. So do you agree that those are 2 of your strongest choices, whether or not they're the absolute strongest or not?
Yeah, well, I think anytime, I get to don a costume of some sort, which when in the Tree Falls, I got to be in a Fizbo-esque costume, and hats off to the wardrobe department, and that was an amazing costume and makeup job and hair wig and all that. Of course, that sticks out in my mind. I really liked this episode that was on 2 weeks ago at the bowling alley called My Hero. I felt like I, sort of got to do the things that I enjoy doing the most in that episode, having, sincere moments with Jay and having a physical, fall. I love falling, and I love challenging myself to always do a good fall. I like that episode, and the wow factor I thought was great. That was a funny episode to shoot, and a real fun episode. That was that water in my face and all that stuff was great. I agree with it. Listen, I will yield at some point to people that are smarter than me.
Well, no one's saying we're smarter, but we certainly obsess a lot about this. Daniel, you have a question?
I was just going to ask you about that recent episode where Cam became jealous about one of Mitchell's ex-boyfriends. We haven't learned all that much about Cam's own romantic history on the show, though. Do you think we're going to get a glimpse into that anytime?
Yeah, I think so. We've always joked about what Cam's background is. I've always sort of pitched that Cam was just a real man's man. Just his dating history is pretty extensive. He's been down each road multiple times, but they'll come up with a great story there, I'm sure, at some point. But I definitely would love to find out. We've hinted at it in interviews about girls that I was maybe with at times in my past, but and then we had the small little reference that I went out on one date with Pepper when Princess Diana had just passed away. I was lost at sea.
Wow. What were some of your other favorite moments from this year, Eric?
Oh, man. Well, my favorite moments are always usually the ones that were most recent, because the other thing about being on a TV show that I never realized was that they all start to really blend together, because you really are, when you're in it, and it all starts to happen. But let's see. I really did like that cat episode where I was in the tree. That was true fun place to be and spend a couple days up in the tree. I don't know. Help me. Remind me of some episodes.
Let me pass off to Daniel. Daniel, what Cam moments from this year did you like?
Oh, well, I mean, you had the cat in the tree, obviously. You had a great storyline, flipping the house with Claire. And also you're venturing into teaching music at the school, which is also very memorable.
I love the episode where I was the first day of me being a teacher. I love the episode where the kids were at the school and Mitchell thought that I had had a bad day at work when what I was really upset about was that I had forgotten to call Lily over lunch. And I love that moment where the kids come up and serenade me in Jay and Gloria's house. That moment made me laugh. Let me think. The flipping Wendy McClinton was great. That was a fun episode to work with her. I'm trying to think of some of the other people we had on the show this year as guest stars that we got to work with as well. Sal, Elizabeth Banks when she was on the show. I love that episode. The wedding scene and in the bar scene. We have a fun job, and I enjoy every day I get to go to work. That's for sure.
Your acceptance speeches, Eric, have been very touching at the Emmys. Do you prepare for that? How do you get ready in case that envelope has your name in it?
Well, the first year I, listened to my representatives' opinions and said, write something down, Eric. There's a very good chance you could win, and you don't want to get stuck up there in that moment that means so much to you and for your career and not have anything to say. And I 100% agree with that. So I did. I had a few notes, but if you watch the replay of me and my name getting called that first year, I reach into my pocket and I grab something, and then I never look at it during the whole speech because, I did have an idea of what I wanted to say. I wanted to thank my parents, and I wanted to let the world know that was watching that it was an opportunity for me to say thanks for helping me make my dreams come true. And then the second year, I don't think I really wrote anything down but knew. And then last year, I for sure didn't write anything down because I really was surprised that I won. I thought Jesse was going to win, or Ed, or one of the other gentlemen in the category, or Ty. But I was truly caught off guard. So last year, I really just kind of spoke from the heart, which was that I wanted to acknowledge Jesse and say thanks to him, and that I also wanted to send a message to actors that, I was doing exactly what you're doing 3 years ago, going to auditions and trying my hardest and sending out my headshots and stapling my resumes to them and beating down the door of agents. And, that's what the work of an actor is. And if you do that, and if you show up and you go to that audition at 5 o'clock on a Friday in Santa Monica, that's the road that leads to you accepting your second Emmy on a stage in front of a bunch of hunky people.
All right. Daniel, I leave the final question to you.
Oh, we've gotten to learn a lot about Cam's life over the 4 years on the show. I was wondering if there was any aspect of his life or facet of his personality the show hasn't explored yet that you're really looking forward to maybe in the future.
Well, we haven't met siblings of Cam. I'm very excited to find out. And there's again been talk of what that scenario looks like. We really haven't done a Phil and Cam episode yet, and that's something that Ty Burrell and I both are looking forward to doing, where Cam and Phil spend an entire episode together. But we both also know that the reason that they haven't done that yet is because we are the two that kind of go off the script and improvise the most on the show. So I think the writers and producers are probably like, if we put them together, we are never going to finish the script. They will just keep going. Ty and I can kill a bit better than anyone we've ever met. We just keep it going. So there might be an ulterior motive from the writers and producers to keep us away from each other. But I would love to find out, a Cam and Phil backstory or a present story or something like that. Okay,
well, good. Here we go into another Emmy Derby. Good luck to you, Eric. I'll be seeing you around the campus. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks so much. Now we're going to bring on Peter Scolari, who, of course, is a legend of many sitcoms past. Some did well in the Emmys. One did tragically poorly, and we're going to tell Peter about that when we get him on the line here. Joining us will be Chris Beachum as well. Now, one of the toughest competitors, of course, for the award for Best Comedy Series is Girls. with starring Lena Dunham, and Peter Scolari, of course, portrays her father, her long-suffering father, quite frankly, and is a model of patience, of parental patience, with this very, very neurotic gal. Peter, are you there? This is Tom O'Neill. Okay,
Hey,
great.
Tom.
Hey, now we're going to bring Chris Beachum on board, our senior editor. Bear with us through the technical back and forth here while we get him hooked in. I have a little bit of Emmy trivia history, which you may not want to know. It's kind of sad, but are you aware that Newhart holds the record, the dubious record in Emmy history, of having the most losses for never having won a single Emmy? It had 25. Isn't that something?
Yeah, no, of course we lived through it, so.
I know, but now you're on a red hot
The
show.
record, maybe there's something to be said for that. The most forbearance award.
The most forbearance award. Do you know that Newhart himself has never won an Emmy, even though he had a sitcom on, a kind of variety show back in the 60s that won Best Comedy / Variety Show, and in those days the producers didn't get an Emmy, so technically he himself doesn't have one, which is really shocking. And the irony is that you're going to be competing. There is a possibility at the Emmys this year that you and Bob Newhart could be nominated side by side. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. You know, I will say this. You should know, and this is deep trivia,
Okay.
that Newhart actually won a Peabody Award.
Excellent. All right.
In that era, when he was coming on Jim Kelly's radio show out of Chicago, and doing his routines. They were first, his phone conversations, they were first being tested on a local DJ's show. He had kind of crafted them. He tried them out at parties, a lot of urban legend, so most of it true about that.
Well, Bob Newhart himself became famous because of the Emmy Awards. He had his hit comedy album, Button Down Mine, yes, thank you, which won the Grammy Award, actually. It was a big hit, but he was not a TV star. And he was asked to come on the Emmys and kind of just do a little bit of riff because he was a hot emerging star. And there was a very naughty comedy skit planned by Mike Nichols and Elaine May that was so savage, vicious, and attacked, by the way, one of the sponsors of the Emmys that year, that the producers panicked when they finally got an eye at this thing and said, we can't let this on the show. What are we going to do? We have 10 minutes to fill up on the Emmy show. And they turned to Bob Newhart and they said, you, fill in the blank, just do it. And on Bob went into the middle of this a stage, virtually unknown, at least visually, to the American public, and became a superstar. That night, that moment, when he had no notice at all, he was so much of a pro, he pulled it off. Isn't that a great story?
I mean, on that one, I thought I had deeper trivia, but I do not. I didn't know that. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Chris Beachum, have you joined us?
I'm here.
Okay, well, while we're reminiscing here a little bit about Newhart and all that, fill us in about Bob Newhart and Peter Scolari at this year's Emmys.
Well, he had that Big Bang Theory episode a few weeks ago, and that was his first sitcom that he'd been on in like a decade. So it's going to be an interesting race, I think, and potentially you could be right in there with him. My big hope is that whether you're nominated or he's nominated or whatever, I would like the two of you to present an award together on that creative arts show. I mean, that's especially if you're both going to be there anyway. That would be awesome.
From your mouth.
We'll plan.
Can I ask you a Newhart question as long as we're talking about him?
Of course.
You had those 3 Emmy nominations, 87, 88, 89, and you came on the show, I think, in the second season, right? And then finished out the rest of the run.
Since you guys have really got your act together, I guest starred twice in the second season and actually joined as a full-fledged cast member in the third season.
What kind of set did he run? He really seemed to set the tone probably for that whole show and his other shows before. But what was he like as a boss and as a co-star?
It was a fantastic study. Your question is an incisive one because, in fact, he did not have an executive producer title, and he did not overtly seek to run the show or to run the writers. But with that being said, I had been around maybe 3-4 weeks. I could begin to see how his quiet, or sort of whispering in the ear of the executive producer, kind of showed the real stripe of what was going on there, which was that he was the boss. He owned some percentage of the show. I don't know how much. And there was no team of executive producers that lasted more than 2 years. And by the 4th year, with my incredible ability to calculate math, I realized that no executive producer team was ever going to do a 3rd season. And he was very clear about that. He wanted to reinvigorate the show, and for better or for worse, he changed producers. And in that sort of de facto way, he was a very powerful boss. The answer to your question about what it was like, it was very actor friendly. You felt, as I've particularly felt, that he stood behind what you were trying to achieve as an actor, and in my particular case, backed my play when I wanted to take my character, start to play my character in a different way than was being written on the page in seasons 4 and 5. I remember the executive producer saying, you know, it's very interesting what you're doing here in rehearsal, but that's not what's written. And I said, yeah, I know, I'm trying to bend it a little bit. And they were not, they didn't really come along with that. And there was a day and a run through and a note session in which, in very rare kind of overt fashion, Bob said, no, the kid's gonna do it his way. And that changed the way I played the character for the rest of the series.
Wow.
Another
Yeah,
question, Newhart question, if you don't mind, and I know we want to get to girls, but something I've always wondered, the finale is just famous. A lot of people consider it maybe the best finale ever for a show, where he wakes up in bed with Suzanne Plachette from the earlier show. But what I wonder from your cast perspective, you and Tom and Mary and the rest of them, Julia, it essentially wiped out all of everything. Your characters never existed anymore. This was all a dream of his. What did all of you think when you saw that?
I had a moment. I think Julia and I, who were very close together, we shared, sort of loss of breath about it, in just the way that for the reasons that you describe, and then we came on board with it. You know, I don't think it's too controversial at this late date to share with you our opinions. Julia Duffy and I were always envious of the Newhart, the original Newhart, Bob Newhart show. We always felt that the writing was better, the cast was exceptional. There were no sort of ridiculous areas of plotting and storytelling, and it was that belief, I think, that took us through our little bit of pang of meaninglessness as we prepared and rehearsed the final episode. In fact, it became sort of a lovely caveat to the entire 7 and 8 year run that I was a part of, because we were so ridiculous. And I like to think that Julia and I redeemed ourselves over and over again by kind of embracing the ridiculousness of it. But we were snotty and snobby, and we thought we deserved, better writing, to be honest with you, like they had on the Bob Newhart show. With no disrespect to the guys who, they'll feel differently about it if they hear this, but no disrespect to the multiple teams of executive producing writers of Newhart. We felt we were a much sillier show, and to sort of take our silliness into this larger, to make us a subset of a larger Newhart universe, was really a stroke of genius.
Now, moving forward to girls, you portray the long-suffering father of Lena Dunham, and I want to be a little cheeky with my first girls question to you here, Peter, and that is it all your fault? In other words, the fact that this girl is so messed up, is it really the fact that her parents put up with it? I mean, don't you just want to reach over and smack her and say, shut up, grow up? Why do you put up with her?
I am a dad. I have 2 grown men, my sons Nick and Joe, who are in their mid-20s and live in Southern California. And I have a younger son who's 13, but I have a daughter who's 11. So I take this question very seriously. And I have to, it goes to the arguments of nurture and nature. Can I really, were I to have been a stronger parent with Hannah, would she come out to be something different? Would she comport herself in a more self-respecting fashion? Would she toe the line? Would she, all these parental cliches? Would she work hard and be ethical? No, no way, not in my opinion. Especially when you take a character as Lena has drawn Hannah Horvath, somebody who is so strong-willed. That will, if you were to try and quash that, take that will down at any time in her life, you'd really just fan the fire. You'd have an even more willful child. And I think what was written in episode 6 in the first season was very compelling for me as an actor, to talk about my daughter as a what if she's really never going to amount to anything. What if she's really not altogether that talented, is what he says. It's incredible that Lena wrote it. And it shows that he's not anybody's fool. He's aware that his daughter is, intermittently full of shit, maybe not to be trusted, maybe delusional. There's things that she does that disappoint him. He's not got blinders on about her, but it's his daughter.
Do you think she's a good writer? That has not been established on the show yet. So your character's skepticism is well-founded. And I know we may not know the answer to it, but what do you think your character's perception of it is?
Well, we're teachers. Becky Ann Baker, who is so brilliant and such a joy to work with week to week. We're professors. We haven't gone into great detail as to what we teach, but we're academics. My sense of where the writing is sort of leaning is in the direction of her not being a very good writer at this young age. In any case, maybe she'll mature into a writer. But her stuff is sexual, sensational. There's a sort of lascivious, leering quality to what the stories seem to be. They seem to relate to sexual misadventures and living life in the sort of damaged, slow lane. But with a lot of ambition and grandiosity. I don't think she's a good or a bad writer at this young age, but she's not formed. And I don't think Lena, who is an exceptional writer, is trying to sell us on the idea that Hannah's really got a gift. It's sort of a component. It's part of that, her whole personal gestalt, if I can use a pretentious word, because I think it's the right word to use here. But we're not being. There's nothing out there that's I think meant to convince us or persuade us.
Okay, Chris.
What is she like to work with? We talked about Bob Newhart running his set. Now here you've got her playing your daughter, so she's an actress, she's the producer, she's the director, she's the writer. What is a set like with her?
I've never seen anything like it. I've done maybe 300 television shows in my 39 years in the business, and this is a young person who has surrounded herself with the most talented people for each position. And moreover, these are not only very talented people who belong on a hit show. Tim Ives as a director of photography, or Jenny Connor as a now co-writing executive producer as well, and guys like Murray Miller coming on, and Paul Sims. They're not just extremely talented people; they're personable, and you're very comfortable around the entire cast and crew. It's not a coincidence.
Now, final question here, Peter. Let's get a little glimpse into your life right now. It is a Wednesday around 5 o'clock in New York. You're on Broadway with your old bosom buddies pal Tom Hanks.
Yes.
You've done the matinee show, and you've got the evening show tonight, right? Give us a little glimpse into your schedule today.
Well, I went in, had an audition at 11, so I had to get up at 9, get my caffeine balance correct. I got into the theater at about 12:15, and I'm trying to restring an old guitar. And then we had a show at 2. The performances of Lucky Guy, for those of our audience who don't know, is Tom Hanks's Broadway debut here in New York, a story of the Pulitzer Prize winning Mike McAlery, who wrote for Newsday in his lifetime, short-lived gentleman. Some would say not a gentleman. Tom Hanks it's like getting on stage with Jagger every performance, because the energy is so high, and the audiences are. He's so beautifully cast. He's embracing assholism that some would attribute to McAlery, and we also find out that maybe there's a hero lost to us in McAlery. I think both of those things might be true. So, a 2 o'clock show, got off stage at 4:10, put my seersucker plaid jacket on to simulate some sort of grooming, and dashed over here. We're only about 3 blocks from you all here at HBO.
Well, great. Well, thanks for doing that. And as you guys say in the theater, break a leg for tonight's show. And you've got the Tony Awards coming up. You guys are nominated in some categories there.
Yes.
Good luck. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So, thank you, our viewers, for watching today's show. We're gearing up now. We're on week 2 of a 6-week run with Derby Talk, and I want to give you a little glimpse of what's ahead in the coming weeks. We have among our future guests here Lisa Kudrow, Matthew Perry, Matthew Rhys from The Americans, Carson Daly from The Voice, and Tina Fey is coming here next week, she says. So you come back to Derby Talk then. Thanks.